uncomfortable showing this much belly on camera.
Yeah, just messing around with a little bit of a different setup. Interesting. I'm not sure how well this works. Yeah, just messing around with a little
Just
bit
an experiment.
of a different setup. Was that?
Said the music was loud.
Yeah, but then I don't know what it was doing. It's kind of like echoing back through the system once Jay joined.
Oh yeah, blame me.
Not your fault. Just yeah, but then
It's usually my fault. It's okay.
Doing it's kind of like echoing back through the system. What's up, everybody?
Nothing much. Oh yeah, blame me.
Hey,
I think I've had way too much coffee this morning.
Yeah, but then
It's usually my fault.
I haven't gotten started yet with my coffee intake. What's up, everybody?
I didn't get much sleep, so I took one of those truck stop espresso shots that are free. Woo!
I bet that woke you up.
Yeah, I think I can hear squirrels blinking from a mile away right now.
Coffee intake. What's up,
I didn't get much sleep, so I took one
Gotta
of
be
those
careful
truck
with
stop
that.
espresso shots that are free. Yeah, I don't drink it all the time, but
I bet that woke
I
you
can't
up.
take a chance at nodding off my job. So yeah, here we are.
No, yeah, don't do that either. Definitely don't do that. Gotta be careful with that.
Yeah, I don't drink it all the time, but
I bet that woke
I
you
can't
up.
take a chance at nodding off my job. So yeah, here we are.
No, yeah, don't do that either. So, definitely don't do that. Everybody see the Zoom meeting they had with the folks from the 26th in North Philadelphia.
No, I just
Everybody
heard
see
about
the
something about there's a Zoom meeting and there was
meeting
protests or
they
something
had
like.
with the folks from
Or am I
I heard
thinking
about
of
it.
the
I didn't see it.
26th. So yeah, they had a Zoom meeting. Apparently,
something like.
I didn't watch it either.
Or am I
I heard
thinking
about
of.
I didn't even know about it, but they had a Zoom meeting where the cops got on and attempted to apologize for letting people roam around with guns and bats. And they
Wow.
did do a great job. And attempted to. They were basically like, yeah, well, all guns and bats matter. Roam around with guns and bats. And they
So,
do
people.
a great job. And
Hey, how's it going?
basically like,
Hello. Good morning.
yeah, well, all
Morning.
guns and bats matter. Roam around with guns and bats. So yeah, so all guns and bats matter.
So, people.
Does it matter who's holding the bats and the guns? Hello, black guns and black bats matter.
No, apparently
Just
not.
curious.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
No, yeah, it doesn't matter who's holding the guns and bats and hatchets. It's just all bats and guns matter.
Okay. As long as we have that and they take that lady off the syrup bottle, we have overcome.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. And then I was I should never read the comments. I don't know why I read the comments still. What? It's probably an addiction. So I was reading the comments, and apparently, quote unquote, nothing happened in the neighborhood. They forget that like Fishtown includes all of Kensington Avenue, which got looted. Um, the only thing that didn't happen in the neighborhood was things that nobody was going to do anyway. Yeah. Uh-oh.
Yep.
Jay's muted somehow, and the
It flipped.
screen flipped. Yeah, so, but I mean, it's interesting because, you know, like we've been talking mutual aid and stuff all the time. I don't know how you all grew up, but I grew up a lot with my grandfather, and my grandfather was the kind of person that would stop for people stuck on the highway, you know, like needing to change a tire or whatever, unless it would make it more dangerous. Um, but that's the kind of mutual aid I grew up with, like, you know, not as a family, you know, and as a neighborhood, we knew not everybody was good at everything, so you kind of got people to do what they were good at, and then if you figured out what they were good at and you got them to do it all the time, then you could not worry about it yourself.
Yeah, it was the same way in my neighborhood. I guess neighborhoods might be a little different nowadays, but like, you know, we knew like every kid in the neighborhood were friends or, you know, connected in some kind of way. You knew their parents knew you. Our parents knew each other. My dad was like the handyman. So of course, if anything broke, you know, he'd go and fix it. If somebody needed an extra room done, he'd go and build it. We had neighbors that were tow truck drivers. We had neighbors that, you know, were mechanics. So everybody, yeah, like they had their niche. You had the bakers, you know, I would eat dinner at multiple houses. You know, the candy lady, like there was always more of a tight-knit community back then. I have no idea what any of my neighbors' names are right now. Like, I have no idea.
I know all of my neighbors right now because we're doing some things in the neighborhood. We're working on putting fences over the alleyway entrances. My next door neighbors just cleaned out the alley completely, and I'm trying to get the numbers and stuff to put the fences on the alleys, but it's a little difficult. I got to do up some drawings for some folks. Yeah, I don't know why did that, is that just a suburbanization of things? Like, did people stop knowing what their neighbors did because like suburban America exists? Is that what it is?
I guess it's like the migration part of it also. Like, I mean, I plan on staying in this house for quite a bit of time unless something crazy goes on in the neighborhood. But any other neighborhood that I lived in, I wasn't planning on staying very long. So I might get to know like a neighbor on one side or the other, you know, get to know each other in conversation. You know, if they asked me to, you know, get their mail, which, you know, normally I didn't have to do, or, you know, watch an animal, I would do it. But, you know, I was always kind of migratory. So it wasn't like my parents, the neighborhood I grew up in, my parents were there for like 20, almost 30 years. So, you know, I've only been in this house for 4 years. My last apartment I was in for 10. The one before that I was in for 2. Like I moved so much, or I used to move so much, it kind of didn't make sense to get to know people unless you ran in the same circle somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, I spent a lot of time moving around when I was a kid, but now we've been in this house for like 7 years, going on 8 years, I think. So yeah, maybe it is the migratory nature of things.
Well, I think it's also like you can't make sweeping generalizations, I guess. Like, I mean, I happen to be lucky that like I moved back to the block that I grew up on. So like literally I knew people that knew me when I was a child. So I'm lucky in that way. Um, I also think that like it depends on the neighborhood. Like I lived in my last house like continuously for like 10 years maybe. And like I knew like my next door neighbor. I knew my next door neighbors when they were there. Like, and that was about it. It just wasn't that kind of block. Like they didn't have block parties, but like 2 blocks down the street they would have a block party every year and they all knew each other, you know? Like and or it's even like a couple years ago there's a block party on my block here and it was like there's people there that I had no idea who they were. So it's like I mean, but like in general, I agree that the shift is happening, and I just think more of it's like gentrification slash migratory things of like this is not people's home. This is kind of like where they rest their head and like go out and do shit. I don't know, like it's just not the same.
Yeah,
Like last night, I got dinner with my neighbors. But
yeah, I have like trust issues also. So, I don't want people kind of, inviting themselves over. Like when we were young, my friends would just come to the back door, walk in, and I don't really want people kind of stopping by.
Yeah. I miss that vibe though. I miss knowing everybody and having the block parties and all that stuff. I've moved quite a few times, and when I was married, living in like Missouri, which was super suburban, we didn't know anybody there. And I thought it sucked, but my ex-wife at the time loved it because she's not really a people person. I was the people person in the dynamic. But now I live in Upper Darby. I know my upstairs neighbor. I know the ones across from me. I know the ones behind me because I'm trying to be like, because it's a crazy time to be alive. So I want to at least know who you are so I can check on you if something crazy happens. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
So Jason hasn't been on the chat before. Why don't you introduce yourself, your pronouns, and tell us a little about yourself?
Jason Singer, him. I'm working full time, so that's good, right?
Chiquita.
Off. I live in Fishtown. The one ATM right around the corner from me was one of the ones that was taken out. So some stuff is happening here, right? What else? I know James through theater. Haven't worked with you in a while, which hopefully we can get back to at some point. But I don't know. That's me. I think from a block perspective that I lived when I was in South Philly, there was a guy named Russ on my corner who was the real protagonist of trying to get the block together. So sometimes I feel like it just takes that one person to start to reach out, and then everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I was hoping somebody would do that," because I feel like some people just don't want to put their foot forward and take. I certainly don't. Like I'm in my shell here, and occasionally like a neighbor will come by and say, "Oh hey, you live here and I live down there," and I'm like, "Oh okay, cool. That's great."
That's a geography lesson for you.
Yeah. Like, you like bikes? I like bikes. Cool.
So. Yeah, I guess you don't get the welcoming committee.
Yeah, nobody's actually. My upstairs neighbor did bring a 6-pack down when I first moved in here.
Nice. Was it good beer?
Yeah, it was. What was it? She did the artwork for this bottling for this beer label. It's a local brewery, and I don't remember the name, but it was very good.
Shameless plug and beer at the same time. Awesome.
Right. Yeah.
So have you what have you been seeing as far as the different groups of people protesting and stuff? Are you near the 26th? Are you near the Girard area?
Yeah, I'm actually right on Howard and Girard,
Mm.
which is in between Second and Front. So, I mean, the protests have been going by, and that's about the extent of it. You know, there hasn't been a whole lot of activity on this side. Yeah, I've seen the videos, and you know, the vigilantes roaming, and kind of just, I'm in awe. Like, I can't understand the mentality it takes to stand in front of something with a bat and say, don't touch this stuff. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Probably because you're not stupid.
Oh, I don't know. My girlfriend would disagree with you on that.
We really need to bring that word back into newscasts and radio shows. I know it's a hurtful word, but it sometimes it just fits. It just fits.
We've been having an online discussion about ableism around the use of the terms like insanity and stuff, and so I can appreciate that it's ableist and kind of excusatory to use a word like "you're insane" to describe somebody's diametrically opposed worldview to like what my sense of reality is. But I need another shorthand because I can't every time I can't say your worldview is so diametrically opposed to my sense of reality that you appear to be not speaking in terms that are logical and sane.
Sound like Spock.
Yeah, I know, but like, you know, I mean, it's fair. People use insanity as both an excuse and as a method of demeaning people, and there are people that are legitimately suffering from conditions that could be called insanity or are called.
There's one in the White House.
There's one in the White House. But then what shorthand do we use then? I think a few years ago, I think we started to approach this a few years ago when we started being very specific about things other than the word insanity. Like, instead of saying somebody's insane on a newscast, they'll say that, you know, they're
troubled.
Yeah, or they're suffering from X condition or Y condition. You know, that like, oh, this person is manic depressive, and therefore that's, you know, or they're suffering from depression. That's why they pulled an AK-47 and shoot 100,000 people in a concert.
Because that's what I do, and I'm down. Oh
yeah.
Pull out the AR-15 and clean house, you know.
Right. Don't drink. Don't do any of the other normal things to help with emotions, which you're not supposed to do either. But, you know, it's more socially acceptable.
Nah, not video games. Come on, man. How many ammo? Let's go.
Right.
I think it's to the point of like, when does inclusive language like diminish its strength? Not from like, that doesn't mean to say that inclusive language is bad. It's just like where do we set that balance, you know? Because like you said, you don't want to be like, well, I'm not talking about actual insane people, and I know that there are people that have that legitimate problem. However, you don't have that problem and you're acting that way, versus he's fucking insane. Like,
I mean, I guess everybody who like is on that spectrum of guarding the Columbus statue, it's almost like a hyper identity issue. Like, they're so their identity is so tied into that statue that you take away that statue, it's almost like you're taking away them. You know, it's
but
kind
most
of
people that defend that statue don't even know what he did in the islands when he actually got there, or haven't read
like
his
some of
first
them
few
do
entries.
know.
Yeah, but most of them don't know. Like people that support Trump a lot have no idea what his platform is yet. Well, he's not Obama. Okay, what does he stand for? He's not Hillary. Again, you're right. What does he stand for? It's
And like
okay,
that was like that was still 4 years ago. Like they haven't come to like 2020.
Yeah, like do you know what Columbus said he was definitely going to do as soon as he got there? It's like the first few entries of his journal. He swore, I'm going to annihilate everybody. He actually wrote those words out. Everybody that's not on his boat is going to get the buckle. That's what he said. And you think this guy deserves a statue? What's next, Jeffrey Dahmer? He was doing people and seasoning. I'm just, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah. Even if they read the diaries, I think they're hyper, like they would turn it into some like grandiose like story. Like everything is so,
no, they don't need help turning it into a grandiose story. There's people out there doing that already. Like there's quote unquote historians who have created this grandiose story about how Columbus was a great adventurer, etc., etc.
Motherfucker wanted money.
Right.
Right.
It's like growing up in the crack era and you knew this guy was a piece of crap. He was awful. He beat women. He's so dope. And then he dies. And then his obituary is like this. He was a young man. He was a scholar. He was a credit to the neighborhood. And you're like, who the fuck are they talking about? This wasn't the same guy. he literally shot at me when I was 10 years old. Oh, my bad. My bad? It's not a my bad moment.
I mean, we can put up Frank Lucas. Right. But if we did that, they'd be like, well, it's history, right? And like, well, Columbus is history. So I'm just going to go ahead and put up, this, and we've glorified gangster life. So, why not? Why not a few, Tukey, statues and Crips and Bloods? Come on, let's just bring them all in.
No. And I have people that are from LA, they're like in their 40s that are trying to explain to me how great gang culture was when it was created. That's nice. How has it been since then?
Right.
So I have, there's a formula, for getting a statue made of you if you're a person of color. What you have to do is you have to do the same bullshit that white people do that get statues of them made.
Slaughter an entire race of people?
Dribble a ball.
So like, look who has
people.
Look who has statues of them made, right? As people of color. Martin Luther King is venerated by white people everywhere, right? Look how crappy he was to women and to his wife and to his mistresses and to kids.
And how he regretted the movement after a while.
Right.
He says, I feel like I have done nothing but scared up a hornet's nest and led my people to slaughter. I'm kind of misquoting a little bit, but that's the general thing. Like, I don't think the whole integration thing is really going to work because things are getting bad now. But they never show that speech or those speeches. Right. It's always the I have a dream speech and blah, 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 which was important, but show them all.
Well, no, what he was talking about was he was starting to slowly move towards talking about social and economic justice, right?
Right.
Which, I mean, the Bernie people love to talk about, but like they co-opt Martin Luther King like in a way that just like annoys the shit out of me. But
I just don't like how they just mentioned maybe 5 people in school that were important to black people, and they ignore everything else.
Well, and then also
it pisses me off.
look at Gandhi, right?
Shit. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he's a pedophile. He's a misogynist.
Wait, Donnie was a
hates black
pedophile?
people.
No
Yes, he
idea.
was.
They
Oh,
always
and
leave
I
I
that
know he
part
didn't
out.
like black people.
And a colorist.
Yeah.
Didn't like anybody darker than him, which is
Nope.
still a huge part of Indonesian culture.
I think
Big
it's
time.
a huge part of a lot of cultures. I mean, when you go to the Dominican Republic, you go to
Oh yeah,
It's a huge
all-
part of
they are
Asian
really-
culture in general.
it was like that when
Right.
I was in South Korea. They had all these creams to make you extremely pale. Like
hmm
I was like, and some of them caused cancer. And it was on the bottom. I'm like, we don't care. I'm like, wait a minute. Wow.
Gil commented in the chat, participation in white supremacy is the ticket for the success lottery. Guarantees nothing, but you won't win without it. Statues, names in books, theater companies.
Yep.
So,
Like, do you know the Arthur Ashe statue in Monument Avenue in Richmond? Do you know about that?
Uh-huh.
Because like,
I know it
there's this,
exists.
like, no, so it's like hilarious because like, there was a controversy like on both sides of the debate on whether they should put it on Monument Ave because like that's where they put all of the
Confederate.
like Confederate statues. So like there's two like people who like were like the racist ones were like, why would you put it in the same spot as these great generals? And then
Who hated him.
other people on the other side was, why would you put it on the spot as these fuckers? And then there are people who are like, he should be on the same spot as those fuckers. He deserves it. But
Just to spite you. Just to
if
spite you.
you ever look like it's hilarious, it's like the worst fucking statue ever. He looks like he's like beating these little gremlin children with a like book and a racket. It's fucking bad. You gotta Google it. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Kind of like the Tupac statue where it doesn't look like him. You're like, who did this?
No,
Like,
I mean,
why?
it looks,
Who is that?
He's like Joe Jackson. The kids are like, like no, but I mean, it's like, trust me, no, because someone told me that. I was like, no, he's exaggerating. When I saw it, I was
No,
like,
he's not.
bad. Sorry, James, you were saying something, and I got.
Oh no, it's all right.
I always love when you speak, man. I love it. I love it, dude.
I don't like. I was gonna transition to something, but I want to also transition to. I was just reminded on Facebook. So Arizona is creating Republican death panels.
To kill Republicans?
Huh?
There's like panels to kill Republicans, or
no panels of Republicans deciding who should live and die.
Trump.
The Arizona is having a spike in COVID cases, and they're running out of room in ICUs and beds, and running out of resources. So
stop opening stuff. Stop opening stuff.
Arizona's response is preparing to implement scorecards to determine eligibility for receiving care in a COVID world with limited supplies. So, like some of the qualifications are how old you are.
Credit score.
You get points based on how old you are, plus other considerations like pre-existing health conditions, etc. So the lower number of points you have, the more likely you are to get care. So Gil says it's a preemptive eugenics program, yes, but it's also, look at it from. So I know these people from my youth. I know people who are part of the evangelical community. These people aren't thinking of it as eugenics. They're not thinking of it as racism. They're thinking of it as bringing on the words of Revelations, and they think that they're bringing about the kingdom of God by creating the environment that's described in Revelations. let's totally ignore the fact that Revelations was directly a rebuke of the Roman government, but
I thought Revelations was scheduled back in 2000 when everything was supposed to shut off and computers were supposed to blow up in your hand. And
every year, 2012, who knows? It's every
it's like a DJ Khaled remix.
The end is near.
Another one.
The eternal.
Another one.
Gil is violently agreeing with my. You probably know the history of this better than I do. What, Gil? Tell us about.
You summed it up. There's enormous amounts of textual evidence, both directly and surrounding it, that it is a political. It's a political, not analog. The fuck is the word, like metaphor that I'm blocking, but not analogy, not analog, allegory. That all of Revelations is a political allegory for Rome. Is there other stuff that they're going on there too? Sure, but mostly it's that. But evangelical Christians have no sense of history whatsoever, so.
Nope.
Facts. Facts.
I'm just not going to touch that. I could say something, but no. Moving right along.
So we're creating death panels because people think that in order to bring about the second coming of Christ, we have to kill a bunch of people.
It's kind of like they're disguising it as like triaging.
Actually, which is hilarious, because if the Antichrist is specifically Nero, and Trump decided to post himself with that fiddle image a couple months back, specifically comparing himself to Nero, interesting choice for someone with an evangelical base to be like, hey, look, everybody, I'm the Antichrist.
And everybody's like, yeah, he was sent by God. And you're like, wait a minute. Yes and no.
Which guy was he sent by?
Right, exactly.
I was going to say that. Like, could it be Satan?
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. We need a church lady right now more than ever.
Yeah.
That's special.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in the Bible as a holy document, but I believe it's a great teaching tool for what not to do. Like you can use passages of the Bible to show older thought patterns and how they led to specific social consequences, and you can show all these examples through using biblical history and Bible teaching, but people take it as some sort of guideline for how to live your life for some reason.
For everything. You know why that ketchup spilled on the table, right? Jesus, like, listen, man. The ketchup spilled, I got that. But I don't think that the Almighty said, you know what, before I make another planet, I gotta knock this ketchup bottle over. Give me 1 second. Stop it. Stop. Just stop. I have a lot of family members that put it in everything. And when I asked questions, it was like, so was he asleep during slavery, September 11th, and the Black Holocaust in Tulsa? Was he on a 5-minute break? I hear you screaming, but I really gotta watch episode of Seinfeld. It's like the best one.
Dropped out, Jay.
Breaking up.
But yeah,
section. Sorry.
That's all right. So yeah, COVID continues. We've moved on to the second part of my agenda for today. COVID continues. Yeah, seriously, please stop opening stuff. It's I want to get back.
Had we had just shut down before and chilled out, summer would be saved. But now summer is ruined because I'm assuming right after 4th of July, we're all going to be shut down again, and people are going to get mad It's already, you know, tension filled as it is.
I mean, we can hope we get shut down again, but the really disturbing statement from the CDC yesterday
right.
before about how it's out of control so much that nothing we do will matter. Like, what the hell kind of messaging is that? It feels like it's paving the way for just herd immunity.
Like F it,
refusing to close. They're like, it's fine, it's too late. We'll open everything, and people can just get sick.
Those are not encouraging words, CDC. I need you to give it the program and be a little more chipper, please.
We are the third world country. Unfortunately.
Little bit more chipper.
Here's the weird thing is like places that were like getting crushed, like New York City, they flattened the curves. So I'm wondering those places already have herd immunity and we don't even know about it yet.
I don't think they have herd immunity. I think what happened was we live in this weird. The situation we live in now is kind of weird because we have access to so much information that we can see the global results of COVID, but people can, when that disagrees internally, it creates this internal disagreement. You if you personally don't know anybody who is affected by it, it creates that what's that called? The mental disparity.
Yeah, it's like a block, like even in this area, it's kind of weird. So I went out to meet one of my old bosses because I haven't seen her in like a year. And she's like, oh, so, you're going to come to our happy hours. And I'm like, no, like, I'm really not. And she's like, oh, well, I'm not worried about COVID. If I get sick, I get sick. And I'm like, well, I get chronic bronchitis. So I'm definitely not going to put myself in that situation. And then I was like, I have a cousin, who's probably a couple years older than me, who is still really sick from March with it. And she's like, oh, really? Like, did she have any like pre-existing conditions? And I'm like, no. And also being African-American, there's something about it that's not like, it may not affect you and your family may be fine, but I have a lot of friends and family who have lost parents, brothers, people who are still in the hospital after 100 days. Like, I'm so close to it that I know what it can do. And even though it hasn't happened to me, I don't want it to happen to me either.
No.
So I was gonna say also that, aside from the dichotomy of not understanding when it's not happening to somebody related to you, so you set up these dichotomies in your brain to make excuses. You say it's a conspiracy, or you say it's not actually happening. But then also there's the changes, the constant changes of information, and I know they're frustrating. And I know people. I've just very specifically talked to some people this week because of the event that we had at the CEC, and like the constant changes of, and I know the constant changes of information are necessary because we constantly find out new things, and there's needs to be reactive right now, but like people in the community aren't aware of what the current information is. So I just want to lay out, I know I don't have a broad reach on any of this. Like I know this broadcast doesn't go, like not a whole lot of people watch this, but if you are watching, I appreciate you. And I want you to stay safe. So wear a mask, wash your hands for 20 seconds at a time pretty regularly, and stay inside, stay in your house as much as possible. Like, I know you got to go out and get groceries, you got to go do this, you got to do that. I do too. Just stay inside as much as possible. That doesn't mean stay locked up. It doesn't mean don't go for a walk. That means stay inside as much as possible. That advice hasn't changed. So some of the things that have changed, I was just talking with a producer who didn't understand what the status of the law is around mask requirements. And to be very specific, here in Philadelphia, you're required to wear a mask when you're outside in public. They did pass that as an executive order. You're required to wear a mask outside in public. And no, not all the cops are following it and blah, 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 and nobody's actually enforcing it, but it is a requirement. Wear a mask outside, please. And then the other thing that she didn't understand was that ADA does not require you to allow people to not wear masks if they say that they have a medical condition that they can't wear a mask. If you are disabled and you can't wear a mask, that means that you shouldn't be participating in activities that require you to wear a mask. There's no way at present that we can protect both the population and protect people who are immunocompromised without masks. Masks lower the transmission of this virus so much that some countries avoided this whole upswing just by having required mask usage. I don't understand how difficult it is for people to do that. I don't understand why it's so difficult for people to do that, but wear the goddamn mask. It's not that hard. Don't take it down to talk. Don't take it down to talk. Don't take it down to talk on your phone. Don't take it down when somebody doesn't understand you. Just speak slower and enunciate your words more. I'm sorry. This exhalation of breath is how the virus spreads. So I don't want your breath to be on me, and I appreciate those people who wear masks and don't put their breath on me, but do everyone else a favor and wear a fucking mask. Todd joined us. You're still on mute. I'll just wanted to let everybody know Todd joined us.
A quick addendum to your mentioning that police in general are not following the requirement to wear masks. That I saw somebody earlier this morning note that if police are being specifically told to wear masks to protect people and they're not doing it, why the hell do people think any of the reform measures are going to be obeyed either?
There you go. Because the reform measures will cost you either jail time or your pension. Yeah.
Hopefully.
That's what I want. I want that pension and stuff.
And
I want mandatory sentences. I hope somebody does one day.
No one's policing the police.
One day.
Hey, so you guys can hear me now, right?
Yep.
Hello, everybody. First of all, I want to say Jason Singer's there. I taught Jason everything he knows about how to be funny and act. Just want to put that out there. Cheryl, I'm going to start wearing my Spartan gear because every freaking time I see your Spartan gear on, I'm a Spartan baby born there. And Gil, I've never seen what you look like because you never put your picture on Facebook, but we're friends. And what happened with all these white people getting on here all of a sudden? What the hell's up with that? But anyways, getting to a point. I do work, and I've worked most of the time. And lately, I've been doing a gig at a hot dog joint down in Delaware called Deerhead Hot Dogs. And we have takeout, and the 60% allowed seating right now. And it's interesting because we do see some people come in and they usually happen to be Trump supporters. Surprise, surprise. That seem to have an issue with the masks kind of thing. And I work a couple days a week at a takeout window. Then the rest of the time doing work from home on social media and website stuff and things like that. But yesterday I'd stopped in there for a moment. We have a young lady, Alejandra, that doesn't ask anybody to put their mask up at the takeout window. So there was two dudes there, blue collar dudes. One had his mask on fine. The other had it down off from his nose. And I kind of took a poor tact on it. I said to the guy wearing it, I said, "Hey, thanks so much for wearing your mask. We really appreciate it." So in essence, it was shaming his buddy that was with him. And then I was walking out to my car as they were walking out after getting their food. And I approached him and I said to the guy who wasn't wearing his mask, I said, "Hey, sir, if you could please just in the future, make sure you wear your mask properly." And then that in turn, got him and saying, well, I don't appreciate the way you asked me, shaming me, blah, 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 all that kind of shit. And I apologized to him because, you know,
I wouldn't have apologized to him.
well, the only reason why I did it, I'm representing a business, and you know, it's not good to mix politics when you're working for somebody else. It's just my viewpoint on that. Personally, I get very political, but it's just harder when you're taking somebody's money to start getting into politics with them. When people try it with me, I just say, I'm not going to talk politics with you at work, you know, not to the customer. That gets tough. You know what I mean? So, so I went
That's
back
why I'm
out.
a truck driver.
Yeah. Yeah. So I went back out, you know, and they were still sitting out there eating. So I approached them again. I said, hey, you know, I said, I'm a guy that thinks about stuff and I take ownership for what I do or don't do. And, you know, it wasn't the right way to approach you on it. And so I just want to offer you guys lunch on me sometime. And the offender was like, it's not about that. And of course that gave him the moment to talk about, you know, that mask you're wearing doesn't really do anything, you know. And I'm like, that's a conversation, different conversation. But, you know, even when you're trying to like eat a little humble pie with somebody, Trump supporters, they can still be assholes like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
you try to give them a way out.
I don't think the mask is a political thing. The mask is a health thing for both you and your coworkers. It's not about who's the Republican or Democrat. He should just be wearing the mask because it's a health thing. It's not about who you voted for, you schmuck. Put the mask on or don't come to my establishment. That's the problem with this country now. We cuddle and coddle people who are blatantly rude way too much.
Right.
Let's start checking people. Listen, put your mask on or get out. Very simple.
Well, I usually do ask them to please put their mask up, and that's probably the more appropriate way to say it. Can you please put your mask up properly, rather than shaming them? You know, that's kind of the nuance of it, so to speak.
And he had it coming. I'm not a collar. He had it coming. I would, no remorse. Bye bye.
I have to say that if an employer can't back you for you know, advocating for your own safety, because their mask protects you. Your customer's mask protects you. So it does do something. So if they can't advocate, if they can't back your play advocating for your own safety, then they're not somebody worth working for.
Well, the owner actually is okay with us asking people to put their masks on, and he does wear a mask and all that kind of stuff. Part of my frustration in the moment was this Alejandra never asked anybody, so I kind of was like stepping up, like, because she wasn't doing it, and just my emotional approach on it wasn't the best way, if that makes sense. There's a right way, right? Even if we got to take the higher road, right? So we got to try and do it in a certain way, especially.
Why do we got to take the higher road?
Well, what I'm saying is, so we can all get like nasty and no one's going to listen to each other, or we can try and find a way to get the communication across. I know it's not always going to work.
I don't think you were being nasty though, but maybe I'm not a Girl Scout that's going to be in the corner crying. You weren't being nasty. He should be shamed because he's putting him and everyone else interacts with him at risk. So yeah, you deserve a little tug on the short and curlies there, buddy. Put your mask on.
Like the cumulative effect of multiple people doing that is going to be the thing that actually makes any difference. That like that tack that we take as individuals, whether we're trying to be nice and tactful about it or whether we're being firm, is not going to have the effect that 10 people asking you in a day, 20 people asking you in a day is going to have. And which is also why it's exhausting and intentional to offset the responsibility onto the people who are on the front lines, to offset the responsibility to ask onto the people who are working at service windows and the people who are working in restaurants, and why, like, even when you feel like they are doing enough to make it safe, it's still not safe for them. And then those reopened things have to be resisted. It's exhausting. I'm somebody who has been for months now, like basically like ahead. I don't know how to put this. Ahead is not the best word, but like in a different place than most of the sort of social conditioning for asking people. I've been incredibly aggressive about asking anybody around me to like not only wear their masks, but not go to business, not support businesses that are partially reopening, not engage in what seems like safe behavior, like going to put like nothing that will even send a social message, even if it's personally safe for you and your group, that this virus is something that is going away or that's safe. And the thing about doing that is it's exhausting. It is emotionally exhausting to be the one who is asking people to do something other than what they're already conditioned to do. And to ask that of somebody to do that 15 times a day because they work at a restaurant, every time somebody comes up, they don't know if that person's going to be aggressive to them. Probably they will. It's much more likely somebody walking up to you with a mask at a restaurant window is not somebody who's going to be kindly appreciative of a reminder. To ask those people to be the ones who are on the front line asking people to behave is really, it's violence to those people. So it's really on all of us to just constantly do it, just like walking down the street, to be calling people out, like not just because it's necessary in that moment, but because it's creating that social messaging that offsets the violence to people who actually have to ask for their own safety.
Yeah. So I do, but here's the thing. I think this whole thing has become a polarizing issue. I do say this as someone who has gone to outdoor breweries and stuff, and so I will freely admit that I've done that. I wash my hands, I try and keep social distance, blah, blah, blah. Like, wear my mask when I'm inside. Like, there has to be some sort of middle point between the far right, which is like, America, I'm not wearing a mask, I'm just gonna cough on everybody. And then I think the more progressive side, which is wear a mask even if you're in a field all by yourself, because things can spread, and don't go anywhere, and don't do anything, and don't have any fun. And it's this virus isn't going anywhere. It's yes, this virus isn't going anywhere. This virus isn't going anywhere for a long time. It's not people act oh, if we just do this really well for a little while, we're good. No, it's not. It's it's about not spreading the virus fast. It's not about you not getting it. You're probably going to get it, right? And you're probably not going to die if you're not immunocompromised. Just don't be a dick. If you're inside, wear a mask. If you're within 6 feet of someone outside, wear a mask. I
think America's the only place that doesn't agree. We're the only country that just doesn't care about anyone else other than self.
Right.
It's the data is there, the information is there. Google works. I don't understand all these, people.
Can you imagine if the requirement was even more strenuous? If we had to wear a full-fledged military-grade mask, we had to inoculate ourselves every 6 hours. You people would be roadkill by now.
Right.
This is the year we had to relearn as adults to wash our hands. This is why the aliens do U-turns and don't come here nah, I'm not fucking with them. They can't even wash their hands. Look at this.
Right. They come back every 20 years. Are they good yet? Nope. Still haven't learned how to wash their hands. Still not wearing masks. I'm not going there.
That's actually major news in 2020. Is grown people, not children, learning to wash their hands. Not relearn, learning. That is sad in my Mrs. Huxtable voice. That is very sad.
It speaks to the success of the recent success and the historical anomaly of the safety that we've had, the success of disease control overall, as an institution at an institutional level, that we could wash our hands infrequently and probably be okay. It wasn't just that, you can moralize it and talk about cultural differences of attitude, but ultimately, people the developed resistance to washing hands was that you could probably do it and not die, right?
But we're not okay.
Wait, this is a really, really good point, and here's where we get to why this has become political. So I had some people on the Facebook asking me, why is it political at all? Why isn't it just personal responsibility? Why has this become a political thing? Here's why. No, not Trump. there is a drive amongst neo-industrialists to free up the market, quote unquote. Remove all these regulations, blah 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 blah. This is a regulation. This is a regulatory moment. We are unsafe. We need a regulation that helps us be safe and be healthy, and people are fighting against it for the same reason that they're fighting against regulations for clean water and clean air. When
we've been so successful over the past 50, 100 years at cleaning up the environment, at making sure people don't die when they open a can of food and serve it to themselves. Like, we've been so successful at cleaning up our food supply, our daily, you know, and we're not 100% successful, but we're successful enough that people don't just die by walking outside or die by eating lunch.
That when they do, we notice.
Yeah.
So what people forget is that when all these regulations came about, people were dying from stupid, simple things. Like, you would open a jar of applesauce and there would be sawdust mixed in, and it would kill you. Like, so it's political because people forget history and people forget why we're doing these things. What?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of goes all the way back to like vaccinations also, you know, or even just food, drug, and, you know, whatever. There are regulations for drugs because of what happened in the past. And, you know, people don't realize sometimes like how long now it takes a drug to come on market. Because, you know, previously they would just, you know, you had like witch doctors, and you had corner store pharmacists that, you know, mixed up something for you and gave it to you. And if you died, oh, well, you know, whatever. And you can't do that now. And I guess people are kind of getting back to, well, let's go back to the natural way. And I'm making my own concoctions and I'm selling, you know, tummy tea, and, you know, it's unregulated, and they're not dying because some of the, you know, things that are going into it are, you know, regulated, but people just want to be in control of everything for themselves, and not
Even
worry
the
about
stuff they're not qualified to control.
Right. Even the government not stepping in when, you know, you're not a scientist. Like, you're, you know, you stay in your lane. I guess I feel like that personally.
I can just pray it away. No. Similar to a gunshot wound, you can't just pray it away. You need a trauma surgeon.
Right.
Well, that's actually a point that Jason just made in the chat. He said, I think if more people were aware of the non-lung related issues that COVID is causing, like losing limbs scares people. Not being able to breathe so well doesn't scare people. People don't jump immediately from I can't breathe well to I'm dying. Like,
scares me.
I mean, I guess we see that even when cops are killing people. You know, you tell them you can't breathe, they're like, whatever, you're fine, you're saying it, you obviously can. So yeah, I guess losing a limb or, you know, other long lasting effects of it, which we're still finding out because, you know, this is a new virus. And unfortunately, there's so many other things that are,
I think
there's a long
another part of it.
list.
I think another part is enough people don't know people that have died from it, so to speak. Like, I think the more people that know somebody that actually died from it, it makes it more personal to them, you know?
Even people who know people who have died from it, it's always, oh, but they were old, or they were, you know, they had like, it's not that my friend who was perfectly healthy, who ran marathons, died from it. It's, you know, someone who, you know, had asthma, and they're like, oh, well, they had asthma, of course.
And there are people that are perfectly healthy that are dying from it. So, and we can't minimize that. But we have like a minute left to wrap up, and I wanted to briefly mention pandemic unemployment insurance, or unemployment insurance in general in PA. I'm working with a group to collect unemployment stories. The Philadelphia Unemployment Project. We're trying to get information to people in power, the lieutenant governor, our state reps, that kind of people. Thanks, Charles. Have a good one. And so if anybody has any stories about unemployment, whether it was, like whether you're successfully getting it, if you applied for it and haven't gotten it, if you're having new problems, whatever, write them down or record them and send them to me. Send me your pandemic unemployment or your regular unemployment story. So we're collecting those. And hopefully we'll get, so just so you all know on the call, I know a lot of us are still employed and only 2 of us I know for a fact that are unemployed at the moment. Something like 13% of claimants right now are not getting unemployment or pandemic unemployment insurance, even if they're making currently valid claims. So that's a large number when you look at the state of PA. It's something like 400,000 people, but enough of it has been taken care of that there isn't a huge drive anymore against the Department of Licenses, and it's not Department of Licenses and Inspections. I forget who runs unemployment in PA, but yeah. So I'm working with a group that's trying to get that all fixed. But yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I got here a little late. I just want to say for next time, Cheryl, not only am I going to have a Spartan shirt on, I might have a hat and I might have my mug too. Okay. All right. Nice. So you might want to gear up a little more for next one too. All right.
Go green.
Yeah.
All right. I gotta get on the road. I've got food deliveries to do. Appreciate you all. Appreciate everybody for watching. Thank you for coming on the stream. Thank you for contributing on Facebook and all the other methods. If everybody would do me a favor, a huge favor. I know it's an imposition, but subscribe to my other stream channels, Twitch, and YouTube. YouTube especially because I just established a new YouTube for the production company. And so I don't have enough subscribers on there to even have a URL. But if you look up Light Beef Productions on YouTube, you'll get the correct YouTube channel. And I'll post the link. Yeah, I'll post the link. I'll post the links on the replay.
Okay.
All right.
All right, guys. Take it easy.
All right. Have a good one,
Good seeing
everyone.
you.